Aloha and welcome to Challenge Accepted, a podcast where we challenge each other to a new movie show every week. I'm Thomas and I'm here with Frank.
Hey everybody, today we're talking Game Changer. I thought I'd throw Thomas a major wild card, and I think this was definitely different than we've ever covered before. But It's been busy. We've been busy, so I thought let's have some fun with something I watch all the damn time anyways. And we're covering Game Changer from Dropout. What is your impression on this?
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about it before we recorded. It's like I've watched a bunch of this stuff, like in little clips and things, not realizing this was a Dropout show, or not realizing that I know some of the hosts from other shows that they have on Dropout, not knowing it was part of this network. So it's just crazy. It's like already been on the periphery of my sphere. I just like didn't know where it was coming from.
Right. So I challenged you to 3 episodes of Game Changer from season 6. What are those 3 episodes?
Yeah, so we had episode 2, the Newlywed Game. I think this was a really fun premise, really dug it. Episode 3, Sam Says 3, which is perfectly named. Yeah. And then episode 6, Déjà Vu, all from season 6.
So I picked these 3 episodes because I thought the Newlywed Game is kind of a straightforward game show-esque thing. Obviously, they're going off the newlyweds from the old days. And as a married guy, you might have insight on this that I don't have. I went with Sam Says because that is the, I think, peak kind of Game Changer format.
Peak. So funny.
And then Déjà Vu, I went with that one because I think sometimes people forget how good the production team is behind this show. And the editing that goes into Déjà Vu is, next level. So the editing, the concept, the storyboarding, you wouldn't think you're watching a game show. It's not played like a game show. That one's played by like an actual storyline. And I do like season 5 and 6. They started doing this thing where they'll do an episode right afterwards explaining all the behind the scenes stuff. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that. I didn't challenge you to that. I know this is already a lot of content to go through.
Oh, I did. Okay. Once I finished all 3 episodes, I was like, bonus content, behind the scenes. You know, like I'm a big nerd for that kind of stuff. So, I had time. I went back and watched it. Interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about it because I ended up watching one of the behind the scenes before I got to the 3rd episode. And I don't know if that was a smart move, but we'll talk about it. About it. But why don't we kick things off with the first one, Newlywed Game? Because it was interesting how they even found these people. Like a bunch of them had been hosts on the show. And then Sam Reich, the host, talked about, and creator and all the above, right? Like, a lot more about him than I do.
Let me kind of explain Dropout then, because that's a good way to go about it. So Dropout, I actually have the rundown here. Founded in 1999 as College Humor, which I know you've heard of College Humor.
1999 though? Yes.
I know.
Oh my God. College Humor was like an immediate subscribe when I first found out what YouTube was. Because we were doing improv and everything. But like 1999 for
I know.
Real? Wow.
In 2013, they moved to LA and they really kind of like started growing with their production quality. Probably the most famous show they made at that time is Adam Ruins Everything, which made its way to cable TV. Adam is on Game Changer too. He's here and there. Then in 2018, they launched Dropout, which is going to be like, we have College Humor here, but for a paid version, it's going to be like where Game Changer is going to live and other things are going to live is over here. And that was at 2018. Then in 2019, I'm sorry, that was at 2019 was when Game Changer premiered. In 2020, this is when everything blew up for multiple reasons. This was in January 2020. IAC, which is a corporation that owned College Humor, decided to cease funding. They weren't into it anymore, so they just stopped, and everybody got laid off. Everybody lost their jobs. Sam Reich, who was chief creative officer at the time, scrounged up some money and bought the company and started it again, bringing everybody back in from the cold and changing the whole thing to Dropout, which is funny because he's a college dropout himself. The joke is that he's totally a Nepo baby, but he knows he's a Nepo baby because his dad used to work for Bill Clinton. So this whole thing,
which they bring up in episode 3.
Yeah, it's a running joke amongst everybody. And then, so that was January 2020. Guess what? March didn't go great. So everything was online. But like he had these friends that were improvers and stand-up comedians in Los Angeles and have them come in and like, I could pay you for 1 episode. That'll buy your groceries. I could pay you for 1 episode. That'll pay for your rent. And just kept plugging along. And finally in 2022, Dropout's hugely successful. Everybody has this kind of like, regular income as they still pursue other things. Like Vic Michaelis has got a Hallmark movie, and Jacob Wysocki, who you saw in one of these episodes, I just reviewed a movie that he did with Kyle Chandler from Walking Dead. Like all these have other things going on, but this is kind of their home where they come from. And they start making spinoffs from Game Changer. Now there's an entire lineup of shows. And then also there's Dementia 20 is part of them too, which is this whole D&D real play. So that kind of gives you guys an idea of Dropout. So the contestants you see on there are people who work within the Dropout family. So in this first episode, just to give you the names, Ify Wadiwe, he's the newer host for a show called Actually. We have Raphael. He's great, dude. And Actually is a show I wanted to kind of implement into Geek Feast a little bit, where you say a geek thing, like you go like, Zelda games is all about the hero Zelda saving the princess every week. And you're like, actually, Link's the name of the hero. Like that's the point of the show. Okay. Raphael Chastain, who's one of the writers for Dropout for a long time, and Teo Yang is a writer as well. But then they bring in their significant others, and and then what's great is Alexis, who was Teo's wife or girlfriend, I think wife now, yeah.
Yeah, it was fiance, I think.
Fiance. She's been on other Dropouts now after that, so she's actually kind of part of the family now too.
I was wondering about that. So yes, what I love about this too, how creative that you have a show called Game Changers, and every episode is a different game. Yeah. I could not even imagine having to think about a brand new game every episode. That just seems so intensive and creative and just hard to do. So props to them for this and carrying it on for 6 seasons. Holy crap. So that was amazing.
New season's about to start real soon too, by the way. That's why we're kind of doing this now.
Oh, season 7's coming up. Lucky number 7. Let's go. Yeah. But for this episode, getting 3 different couples who are kind of familiar with and have been on the network, also being at different stages of relationships was pretty cool. Like, I was like, what are the chances? And they even said, like, we didn't even really plan that. That's just how it happened. So it's so crazy, right? You had Ify and his girlfriend who are just dating. Then you had Teo and his girlfriend who you mentioned. She's also really funny. I figured she had something to do in acting and improvising.
Yeah, she's a writer.
A character.
Yeah, she normally writes columns, but she's just so well spoken. She does a piece for what's called Smarty Pants, which is basically a TED Talk all about how to write emails like a white lady. It's fantastic.
Right. I like that. I've seen hilarious clips of that. That's such a genius idea too. But yeah, she's really funny. And then the last group, I'm blanking on their names, but it's like they had just gotten married. Yeah. And I'm like, what are the chances of that? It was just such a cool way to do it.
That's Raphael and Haley is the last group. Yeah, they just got married. And like their whole like the lawsuit subplot that was kind of in there where they're suing their wedding venue and shit. Like there's all kinds of things going on that's just kind of, it's fun to see a peek behind these guys. And the fact that this is kind of like back in the day when it was on cable so they could cuss a lot. This is Dropout's their system. Like, you know, if you pay to be here. So they can talk about whatever they want. And infamously in this episode, there's the random numbers that Ify and his girlfriend are writing down, and then we find out that's how many times they had sex per month. And it's like, what? How do you have any energy?
How do you do anything else? Yeah.
Right. How do you do anything else? Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. It was like how many carrots you ate. Like it could have been something way more reasonable. They're like, that's how many times we had sex. We're like, what? And they're both like, yeah, that's what it is. I'm like, what the hell? They're like, Sam even goes, he's like, you guys had sex more times than there are days in this month. Right. Like how? Like, yeah, it was just wild.
What's great about that though is because this is a big family that goes over this entire streaming network, essentially. Like if everybody was on Netflix know each other, Ify makes jokes about sex in everything he's on. So it's kind of like, of course, Ify's the one that has those numbers up there. That is kind of a character then that transcends beyond one show, but all of his shows, including the one he hosts.
That makes sense. Yeah, and then you learn their personality, and that personality carries over to those shows. That's cool. It seems just like a ton of fun. But the idea of bringing on your significant other, I love my wife to death. I was watching this, and I was like, there's no way in hell she would do this show with me. Like, it's just like way too exposing. And then the idea of like, here's my phone, dig through it however you want. And they even get to the emails. Like, I don't know about you, but that gave me a ton of anxiety. Not because I'm so meticulous about my emails. It's because I was like the last Raphael at the end. I just let my emails run. Like I have a junk email that those numbers just pop up and it's a part of all the other emails. I don't even know how to take down those numbers. They just are what they are at this point. So if they saw my number, like if you saw it, anybody saw it, they'd be like, dude, this is an insane amount of numbers on your home screen for email.
See, that's anxiety inducing for me. I keep it tight. I have no numbers showing. Oh God, I see. I got 2 things from Threads now. That's gonna bug me. Like no extra emails, nothing. I'm in a group chat on like the family group chat. I had that thing muted as hell because I don't want to know. I don't need to see a bunch of pictures of the nephews. Just let me know how things are going. But like,
you also
it's just
live near your family.
Well, I mean, yeah, for the most part. But that's the thing is, it's like, I like when they're showing like, 10,000 emails. Oh my God, that makes me sick to my stomach. I can't do that. I got to be on that.
Yeah, I'm right there. So I felt for him, and but just all these different things, like random searches you have, or like I thought one I loved was Twitter drafts.
Yeah,
because you're like, what the hell were they possibly thinking? Like, there's so many little notes in my phone of like, this is hilarious. I want to remember it, and then like 10 months later, I'll look at him like, what is like white domino? You know,
I literally
like,
have a notebook page of that, of things that are like, oh, this is great. Someday I'll need something that's funny. And I have a page of that. Those are not useful. And to me, what I loved about that Twitter draft section is like you and me do a lot of social media stuff for the podcasts. And so we're trying to constantly be creative, smart, funny, whatever we can be. So you put something out in drafts and it's kind of like, it'll sit there for a second, let me think about it. And then when we revisit, and like some of them are like, do you even know what this is? Like, and it was, but the spouses seem to be really on top of it. And I loved that. That was really cool to see, or the partners seemed to be really on top of it. And it's like showed the connections between these two. And
really, I was just impressed with that. I was like, man, they really know each other. They'll be like, they're like, well, because she texts next to me, and then sometimes she'll just like slide that text in front of my face. And he's like, that's less invasive than if she just turned to you and said, hey, this is what's going on, or like, what do you want to order for dinner? Or even that, like, oh, I love the part where they had to guess how much they spent each month on like delivery food service.
Yeah. Food daddy.
Yeah. Dude, that was up there.
That was Haley who spent like $1,500 I think on 1 month, but then she's like, the way that Haley like right away is like, Raphael, we are in a legal fight or something like that. Like, so it was the reactions. Like, this is the first time Haley's been on any camera. Same thing with Emily. They both did great. And then Alexis, of course, she's been on stuff now, but that was pretty early on. So yeah, it's just cool to see how much that they were willing to play along too and be embarrassed. I don't think I could be as open as they were.
No, that's what I was really impressed by. I think by the couples who weren't, you kind of knew who the dropout people were and who were just literally the couple. But man, they were so open to just putting it all out there. Text messages like that. Yeah, not that I have like any like terrible dirty secrets, but like I just can't, like I have stupid shit in my drafts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want people to read that, I don't, and also because I don't know if I could explain it. Like if I gave it to you, you read it, you'd be like, what is this? And I'd be like, dude, honestly, I have no idea. It says from like 2019 or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah, or like the random group message names. Like I don't even remember why we called it that anymore, but he's like Big Papa Daddies or whatever, or all different names. It's like, it's just dudes making stupid names. I don't know. I can't explain that.
Right. Like Hubba Hubba.
That was a great one, yeah.
That was a good one, but he still remembered it. Like, I got a friend in my phone who's been a friend forever, and I have in parentheses knee, like Knee. Why? No freaking idea. I've been friends with him forever. I have no idea why. At one point, I associated a knee with him. No idea. So just props to them for like remembering and then also just like going there. It was awesome.
You're still Thomas Joystick in my phone.
Yeah, there you go. One of my good friends, like I've just got asked to be his best man at the wedding. He just said, I have you in my phone as Thomas Oakley still. I'm like, what? That's freaking last name. Like I'm like gonna be your best man. You're gonna call me by a job I used to work at like 10 years ago. Like what are we doing? But here we are. Yeah.
And then shout out to Sam, of course. Sam, who is the CEO, but he's also the host of this and of Make Some Noise, one of the spinoffs. Yeah. And he brings out his wife too to kind of like, hey, come make fun of me. And I thought that was really good playing, and she kind of dressed up like him too. So that was kind of fun to see.
It was good. Like he seems, who knows behind the scenes and how it all works. Yeah. We've heard so many things about these people who seem like they're awesome, and then you hear behind the scenes and they're not. But he does seem like a pretty cool guy to work with or work for.
By all accounts. Yeah.
Yeah. He's having fun. He seems super collaborative. He seems super open to different ideas. And to put yourself on blast, so to speak, that's pretty bold. So I dig him for that.
One of the big things I like about the behind the scenes is seeing how they all the producers especially kind of like work together on ideas. it is definitely not all Sam's idea. Like he likes to kind of like, oh, I like old game shows, so he makes sure to want to use this one. But it's the props team who decided to turn those things into chairs, and like it's a whole group effort, and you really get to see it. And I really appreciate how on the show, like when there is an episode that is maybe really, arts team heavy, actually push the button or whatever it's called out of the season, they make sure to bring them out and everybody kind of clap for them for a moment, just because it's like, look how great they did, guys. You wish you could work at a place like this. That's really cool.
Yeah. Where everybody's recognized for sure. I mean, in this episode in particular too, they talk about the scoreboard, right? Like she was saying, like, if you take this half of the scoreboard and you put it with this one, it forms a heart.
Yeah.
And like how they were like painting or sanding and all that stuff to the wire. It's just really just a well done show. I will also say this though. This may lose some people, but I got to say it. I'm not a big game show person.
Right. Yeah.
So it's interesting because like I'm a super nerd about behind the scenes and like creating things and all that kind of stuff. But like I'm not a big game show person, but I appreciate the hell out of what they did for this show. It gets even crazier. Like I just straight up love Sam Says 3.
Yeah.
Like I just love that one. But then again, it kind of becomes more just appreciation for Déjà Vu, which we'll get into later.
Yeah. So that's the thing is, game shows definitely have their place. Like in 2020, I forgot to mention this part, but Sam, when he buys the thing, he's like, guys, people seem to be gravitating towards the improv stuff, not the written, because they used to use scripted stuff. Remember all the scripted college humor skits? They're like, those don't have the punch that all the other ones do. So let's just go improvisers only and just lean in on the improvisers. So with this, the idea of Game Changer, what I love about it is, whether or not you're a game show fan, there's appreciation for the fact that, like, hey guys, walk out on stage. It's like, give me a name of a sport or whatever, basketball. It's like that. What's the name of this? It's Newlyweds. Get on out of here. So for the most part, these people don't know anything about when they come out, and that translates to other shows as well. There's jokes where like Ali Beardsley's coming out on one thing, and then they're like, I don't know if this is a game changer or not. I'm not sure if I'm getting tricked for game changer right now. And it's like you're on a whole different show, but you don't know if you're being tricked right now. So that kind of thing.
Which they talked about behind the scenes. Like Sam sent it out and he's like, I think I accidentally made all the cast members afraid. Because they were like, wait, is this a Game Changer? And Game Changer is one of the shows where you can look like a complete idiot. Where it's like all of it's improvised. And also I think people are more attracted to that in some ways these days. It's like, think about how many people are just spitting into a mic on TikTok, or the conversations people gravitate towards on podcasts, because they're not scripted, they're not perfect, they're not giving you some false kind of version of it. It's just like what comes out naturally in that moment, and that is so fun. That's one of the true beauties of improv. And as much as the audience can love it and everything, like you can love it too, because you're surprised at what your friends are going to do. You're surprised at like what you think of, like it's been so long since I've done it, and I doubt I could even be on stage and do a scene anymore. But there was times where we were, for a good year and a half, like that's what we did Thursday nights. I want to say Tuesday and Thursday nights. We practiced in this open, it was like a dance studio, and we would just practice different things. And we eventually got to the point, we did 2 international improv festivals that both did. The first one bombed so hard. Our first show ever bombed so hard. It was embarrassing. It was at a community college, just the most embarrassing. I wanted to like, man, a good thing there wasn't a bridge close by, because I would be jumping off it. It was so bad. It was so bad. But you build it up like a skill, right? And you can just see the dynamics with everybody, especially with your couple. That's what I kind of love about the Newlywed Game as opposed to the rest of them, is that even though they're being open, there's that little bit of that message, like, I don't want to piss off my partner right now. Like, so there was you could tell they had to tiptoe a little bit. I like that. And
there's the energy, so Make Some Noise, which is probably the most successful spinoff, and it's probably the one I watched the most of, is even more improv-y. And there's that nature amongst all of these shows that's the yes and rule. Like, I love when you get to hear about, because I'm not an improver, but I enjoy good improv. Matter of fact, Dropout now has a new series that's literally multicam setup on an improv stage and literally doing improv on the stage. It's really fun to watch. I think it's at UCB, matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a pretty good place. And but anyways, so... But yeah, you hear about like buttons and all these different techniques, but there's a lot of that yes and, like, just let it keep going. Like, just keep encouraging everybody else to have fun on their own stage. And And so it's really cool to see them do that. And I think let's move on to the next one. I think Sam Says is a lot of that. Like when Lou's going to do a cartwheel and they're just like, go for it, buddy. Stuff like that.
Okay, so I love this one the most.
Yeah.
The different hosts or contestants, I guess. I was the most familiar with Vic Michaelis, I think is her name.
Vic Michaelis.
And then Wysocki. I don't know what that
Jacob Wysocki. Yeah.
Jacob, hilarious. Dude, that guy is like actually a phenomenal actor.
He's I think he's a freaking genius. I really suggest you check out more of these things. I think Jacob Wysocki is incredible. He actually is an actor. He's been in a lot of little things. People probably know him most from Pitch Perfect because he was on Pitch Perfect.
Oh, he's a Pitch Perfect?
He's the guy, like, you know when they're going to have that big battle in like the empty pool, I think it is?
Yeah.
He's the announcer that's there.
That
He's the announcer for that whole thing.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for that. But he was like committed. The time where he yells at Sam before he goes off stage. And he's like, wow, I was actually afraid of you right there. I was like, phenomenal. Yeah. And then one of my favorite bits in the whole episode was when they have to like act out a visual effect.
Yes.
And he goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
And like, dude is committing.
Yeah.
Like they draw in with these amazing effects too with the hair and the blast. But like he was like just going for it.
And he does a follow-up to it too, where it's like even bigger hair and stuff like that. But shout out not only to Jacob, but that production team, like the art team behind this thing. Like it's crazy. Dude, this was just a YouTube company, and now they're starting this little empire of individuals, of independent people that have this, like, everybody shares in their profit. If they make money off that episode, everybody that's involved in that episode makes money. And like, I just love that kind of concept. So it kind of makes sense that you have these people like Lou Wilson, I think is fantastic. And he's also
the last guy, right?
Yeah.
Is he the guy who's doing the cartwheel?
Yes. And he does Fantasy High, which I was telling you, like, oh, Brennan, they just did Madison Square Garden. He's part of that team where they just played D&D at Madison Square Garden. That's part of Dropout. Damn. And yeah, it's incredible. But his side gig,
funny, man.
Yeah, he's the guy that does the voiceover, the intro and on the street stuff for Jimmy Kimmel. So you guys probably recognize him from that.
Wow, really? Yeah. He's good. Like, he was so good. I mean, the cartwheel is like the thing that's sticking out the most to me. But when he's like dressing up,
he has that little tail when he dresses up.
yeah. There's just like loves the tail. But even like how he was like messing up was just incredible. Like, I think in a weird way he was my favorite out of all of them.
Right.
But like, I can't specifically think of like one thing he did that like stood out to me, except for his visual effect.
His visual effect was great. I want to say the thing that I think to me is the best for Lou is when they had like these chain of things. It was kind of like a Simon thing where you have to like kind of keep building on things. And the last one was dedicate the episode to somebody. And Vic and Jacob went ahead and dedicated the episode to somebody. And then Lou did the chain beforehand, then dedicated it to those two.
Right.
Knowing that, no, the prompt hasn't ended yet. We're just going to keep building on it. It was so good because it was him just kind of being clean, knew he had this in the bag, and watching Jacob just melt next to him, totally burst in rage. Like the swear jar was such a good element to this. That's new in this one that they built on with Sam Says, and I think Sam Says is probably one of them they're going to have to keep bringing back because like the previous Sam Says are all slam dunks as well. But yeah, just watching Jacob like blow up all these like, and I dedicate this to Jacob Wysocki and Vic Michaelis. That was great.
Yeah. I know, it was so good. Yeah, the swear jar though, that was a clean element because they keep stacking these rules. And then I found myself trying to be like, did he say Sam Says? Like I was trying to follow along with
Salmon
it.
Says and
yeah, he's like, oh, I said Salmon Says on that one. And Vic's like, oh, dang it. And then even she was like, why don't we just keep swearing? Let's just knock the score down. Yeah. And like it's just like this fun dynamic between all of them. And that's what you get with like a good improv team. Is like there's this level of trust, right? You're going up there, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know what the situation is going to be for the most part, you don't know what the audience is going to suggest. So the only thing you can rely on is that you've been in this situation a bunch of times with these people. Yeah. And you could tell like they had each other's back. Even though they're competing, they were still working as a team. It was like, nope, not a team move. not a team
Right.
of Vic. You know,
That's the great part about it, right? Is because there is like kind of this thing where it's like, yeah, we're competing, and sometimes the prizes suck. Like in that one, I think it was like a Lego block. Sometimes it's great. We're like,
Right.
hey, by the way, here's 2 tickets to anywhere in the world you want to go. We're gonna fly you there. Like,
wow.
they done that. Or like, hey, here's 3 months. Here's 3 months of rent. They've given those away and stuff like that. One of my favorite prizes they've done it a couple times now is like, here's a year subscription to any year pass to any national park. It's like that's a great,
that's cool.
That's a great gift. Yeah, they do that one a lot. But
that's awesome.
yeah, there is this nature of like, yeah, but we're still entertainers. We're still improvising up here. So you kind of feel that like, yeah, we're competing, but also it's fun to kind of poke at Vic for this or that. That makes the show get better and better. And yeah, the swear jar I think was such a good element because it kept like elevating points, bringing them back down, and it creates this rage thing. And like the fact that like I always loved watching Jacob catch that he did it and like I know it's coming.
yeah. You could just tell. But like somehow they talk about in the behind the scenes, like they're allowed to say come. Like
and that becomes the new word.
Yeah. On 3, everybody. Come. And like, oh man, the fetish one was hilarious too, where he just pulls out the 1 foot. Jacob just like bigger. Like, I mean, just that was so good. That was so funny.
The don't flinch, which is don't flinch is in every one of the Sam says is, and where they just drop a body from the top, and like Lou's reaction was great.
Scared the crap out of Lou. You can tell it's genuine. Like that scared the shit out of him, and it did me too. Like I wasn't expecting it. And he was like, I don't care. Take points away from me swearing. Like, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, I like how he says like the moment I don't freak out when a dead body falls is when you need
cops. Yeah, that was better. That's right.
Oh man.
And this ticket. Oh,
go ahead.
Sorry.
Well, I was just gonna. This episode culminates in the bus ride too, like the party bus, and I love the again. It just reminds me of like there's so many elements going to this. The subtle shot, like the zoom in on the sign that you see on every bus that nobody actually reads, but is reminding them all of the rules that they're supposed to be playing by.
Did it?
Yeah,
I didn't even catch that.
If I've seen this episode too many times, but it's like if freeze, make sure you freeze. If it's all the rules, but it's that slow zoom in on that sign. Yeah.
Oh my god, I didn't even catch that.
But nobody reads those. When you're on a bus.
I didn't read those. I was like, I'm not boarding the bus. I don't need to know what that says. But like. Yeah, they go on the bus and they're like, party with your friends. And it's like, yeah. And like, they're solely treating it like a party bus. Like you would, like, hell yeah. Like midday, I don't know, maybe it's like a Tuesday or Thursday. You're getting paid to be there. And there's like, they're also stacking with alcohol, which is like nothing you could do probably on a normal network show.
Right.
But they're drinking and then like, they're just getting wild with all their improviser friends. They come back. There's a little bit of buzz and they still have to play the game. Like,
I love the way that shoe drops when it's all of a sudden, by the way, you cuss 13 times on it, and then you just see Lou just like pour the beer out of the boot, and he's like, oh, fuck you guys.
Yeah. I think they talk about the set dressing. She was like, we rented that boot. Like, we have to return that. But like, you just never know what they're going to do. I just love the party bus thing. All the rules went out of the way, and it's just, I wouldn't have thought of it either. I just thought, there's no way I would have considered the rules here.
And everybody on that bus, by the way, the 3 friends are also people who work with Dropout. So it's people that you work with too. Kimmy is one of my favorites. She was there, the one that was like had to say freeze to kind of throw them off.
Yeah.
So talented. She used to work for Cracked before this. And I know Vic and Jacob are actually on an improv team together. And I believe Kimmy is on that team as well. But so there's some times where like these people work together outside of work all the time. So there's this relationship that they all have that I think that's leads to good shows that they play off each other like they were raised together because that's what they do all day is just improv off each other. And there's a real skill to that as you know, that I think when you watch there's this element of like, oh, I could do that too. I just want to go have fun. It's like, yeah, you can have fun with it, but you're not going to be good at it like that, Yeah,
100%. It is a skill. I know for a fact, like I couldn't just go on a stage and do that anymore. We used to practice accents. We used to practice, all right, if we get in this situation, I mean, there's just so many areas of like, how far can I push this? And how far can I push you? Like, me and Drake have gotten pretty close to like almost kissing a bunch. Well, we probably have kissed at least once, but like they
did on that bus today.
Exactly. But like, can you imagine getting that close? Like it's your friend, you're doing this, but like maybe in this scene, you guys are husband and wife. Yeah. What do you, how far are you going to take it?
Yeah.
And there's that element. Exactly. And you don't want to stop it. So yes, there is, you really have to learn where your barriers are, how you move past it, where other people's skills are, where they're not comfortable, how you can navigate that, how you can navigate yourself, you know, when you're like, all right, I don't know what they're going to do, but I have to carry this scene forward. Or, you know, just there's so many aspects to it that people don't realize, and you're doing it on the fly. And I just give so much props to all of these different people in all these different games, because it is a tremendous amount of talent. And I think this episode, out of all of them, showcases it the most.
And I'll say that this episode is the most like all the other episodes of Game Changer. So
okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
The other two, I will say one of the reasons I went. So the next one we're going to be doing is Déjà Vu. I picked Déjà Vu because I like how it highlighted this one and pushed the button. I was debating to. I like how it highlighted everybody who's not behind a podium, like the art team, the like multiple movie people behind the scenes that are all part of this team. Like you saw in Sam Says, how many people came on for that conga line? Like there's a lot of people behind cameras at that moment.
Tons.
Yeah.
It's a real, like, not that it wouldn't be, but it is like a real network
the assumption.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah, the assumption is like it's a bunch of friends, a couple cameras, and then, you know, it's these guys who show up and they improvise and they have fun. But you're like, damn, there is staff there. There's like hair, makeup, production, gaffers, lighting, everything.
Right. And that perceived notion of like this is real TV is amplified when you think that Sam Says 3 and Déjà Vu were both Emmy contenders. And we're up
really?
Yeah. So the whole thing was Vic Michaelis is Very Important People and Game Changer were both up for Emmys. And it was a whole thing where the community's like, I loved it because like, I don't normally care about Emmys, but the whole community behind Dropout were like, how do Emmys work? How do voting on Emmys work and stuff like that? And it was this whole thing where people were learning about it because they were like, holy cow, a show I actually care about could actually go up for Emmys. Right. And it was really fun to kind of be a part of that discovery of what Emmys are and how they actually work. Yeah, and there's a lot of like work on the people who want an Emmy. It's not like you're just like, hey, we like your show, here's an Emmy. There's a lot of work on your side to show your show to them and like kind of present it and do a presentation stuff. So Déjà Vu is one of them. That and Sam Says. And with Déjà Vu, we have just like these moving cogs of some of the best. Zach Oyama's in there. He's the one that's like eating the spaghetti. He's like one of the oldest, or I should say like the longest college humor employees that have been there. A lot of these people, same thing with Josh Rubin. So it's a really, big episode.
Yeah, totally. When he popped up too, and I've seen him in clips, but when he popped up, I was like, whoa, this guy's on this show?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's very recognizable, even though I didn't know his name. And I think he was on Very Important People. Like he gets painted as like a rock dude or like a muscle guy.
He's the muscle guy on Very Important People. And he just did on the second season that just aired a couple weeks ago. He's like an undead ghost that's haunting and now wants to co-host the show with Vic. And it's great. Yeah. That's
amazing.
It's the Letterman. Yeah.
Yeah. But the production though, to your point, I mean, they have props made in this, like the little robot thing that they have to scream into. And at first, like all of them, he says it again, like you're going to figure out the game as you play it. It's the only way to learn.
Yeah.
But it took me a few times to be like, what are they doing? Like, he kicks the camera. And I too was like, oh crap. Now, working with other podcasting things that have this ridiculously expensive cameras. Yeah. I was like, oh shit, that was bad. And then he kicks it again. I was like, wait a second. And then again. And then the questions are the same. And then the routine is the same. And like the creepy clown comes in and hand me a duck. And there's the guy that wants to clean. You're like, oh, they're doing a Groundhog's Day kind of thing.
Right.
How does this stop? How do you win? It's really, really smart in how they construct this episode.
And what I love is what started off as like a normal game show. Like, oh, we're answering questions. Like they got 3 of probably their smartest contestants. Ify Wadiway is a genius. Siobhan, she's actually one of them that also was at Madison Square Garden. She's part of the D&D crew. Nice. Oh, and so is Zach, actually. Zach, the one that had the spaghetti, he's on there too. Who was the other contestant? Nice. I think it was, Mike Trapp. So Mike Trapp is the first host for actually, and then he wanted to take a break from it, so then Ify Wadiway came in, which we saw Ify from the couple episode. But so like
Trapp
there's some
like a smart guy. Like you seem like a smart comedian, you know?
Yeah,
like,
and he's again been around for a long time, and he's like one of the big writers that are there. So so first you're like, oh, okay, this is actually just going to be like a hella hard episode for them to know because it's like really good questions. But then what I love is as it repeats, the show starts to slowly fall apart by design. Like it's just kind of getting off the rails. But they also show that in the editing by making sure to like mix in like static, old footage from Sam's childhood, like just to kind of show like this whole thing's kind of coming off the wheels. And a lot of that was done through editing, kind of explaining what's actually going on set.
Right. Which I didn't catch. I didn't catch it the first time. I was like, why is it all staticky? Like, what is this weird thing? And I knew it was Sam Reich because they're like, hey, this is little baby Sam.
Yeah.
Like they'd say it, right? And I didn't understand how those connected until I watched the behind the scenes, which was basically saying like, I wanted it to feel like a game show that was getting, or like an old family movie that was getting rewritten for a game show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like your family
keep rewinding the tape, and as you rewind the tape, it's getting worse and worse and worse over time. Yeah.
You like play it over or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, wow, that's really smart. So it clicked after I watched that. I think that was really smart. But from a production value, yes. I think that's why, like, I didn't like love this episode and like, I just enjoy it, but I appreciated the hell out of it because I saw how much work and I saw how much editing was going into it. Because it's like, you can get easily bored after showing the same thing over and over again.
Right.
But you're right. It gets more and more chaotic and they start upping that chaos and they start upping the reason why you needed to have the box as opposed to a point. You know, like it starts getting there and like he even clearly says like, you're not going to get more money till the game's over and they're dishing out what money, you know, like someone's bribing somebody too much. Now they have no money.
Great moment right there. The money thing, fully improv, like knowing that would make things better is because I'm going to bribe you. A normal game show? No, you can't do that. But when you have a bunch of yes-anders sitting in the room, like, let's see what happens, you know?
Yeah.
And then that becomes such a big highlight of that episode is the way that bribing is changing hands and stuff like that. And, you know, that's always fun to see that can actually work.
Totally. Also, like the other thing he said on the behind the scenes was, you know, the whole point of the boxes was we had to figure out how much they needed or how many boxes they needed to reach the ducks, right? And then was it Mike Trap, whatever his first name
Mike
is.
Trap, yeah.
He went off stage to grab the
ladder.
And they were like, normally I would allow that, but I can't for this game. So he's like, I had to come up with a reason on why I couldn't allow it for this game. And he's like, because that wasn't a problem in Sam Says. You know, think about how many times they got off stage to grab props. So it was it was really, really, really well done. Yeah. And then the behind scenes aspect where you have your phones basically for 2 minutes to Google everything you need to or YouTube it to learn how to do or answer this thing better. It was like, man, that's so good.
Make that fake YouTube channel or video of like how to fix it. Had that published on the internet, make it to where it looks real. And then one of the things too that comes from the writing, because I don't think people think about writing very often when you have an improv-based show like this. But think about how like you have to have it stacked to where you needed to answer this one correctly so that you get the cover for your podium over here so that you can get this. But they're all out of order. So only in repeating do you catch things. And then also with like their introductions, you know, the introduction of like the second host or whatever only makes sense if you see it multiple times, and then everything has a second meaning. And so I thought the writing was actually pretty good on this one too.
Amazing. Yeah, we haven't even talked about the video game yet, but like just getting reintroduced as they walked in, like it starts off like really funny and they're like really thoughtful, like they put some effort into their character, and by like the 6th time they're like, whatever, you know what it is, like I'm just here, you know, like let's do this again.
Even like it's just so answering questions just became about going fast as you can on the buzzer because you learned crazy ass answers. I couldn't even tell you any of the answers, but like they're like really obscure answers, but that wasn't the point of the show. It was like I need to get to the point where I can like make sure those spaghetti's on my pooth at all. So like that. Right.
Or get to the point where I can get a box to grab a duck or negotiate or which how do I get to the balloon that's gonna pop something? Right. You know, like that was so good. But the video game, you know, it was like, and then I was thinking, is there really like, does this video game ever lead to something? The first time they die, right? Mm-hmm. But then they talked about it again in the behind the scenes that they brought in actual game creators and game theorists who made video games to talk about like how they were gonna design this for one aspect of this episode. It was like one aspect. It was like 5 minutes.
Well, what I love is that wasn't cheap. So they actually used it in the next episode too. That video game.
I was going to say, man.
Yeah. The next one is this game where the answers are super easy, but then the buzzards start to malfunction. And so they have to find buzzards that are just like hidden randomly throughout the studio. So it's all about like, what's the biggest ocean? And then they have to go, and there's all kinds of crazy things. One of them is if you could solve that video game at the end as a buzzard. And so it's just wild. But yeah, it was like, okay, that's too expensive. We have to use that again to make sense for the budget. Yeah.
I was going to say, it's, if you've ever had to make anything graphically like you and I have, it's like, that is not cheap, but it was just really well done. And then hearing how there was like a bunch of endings that they didn't even use. Like you die by Q-tip. You die in your sleep peacefully or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I love that one. Yeah,
Totally. Like so much of this, it's like you don't even get everything that they had to do.
Right.
And that's even recreated in the fact that they have to kick this camera and then reset. And then there's this whole, behind stage thing, and they have to have a camera there filming them do that. And then there's the color code on the back, and the color code has a very specific number.
God, I use those color codes all the time. Those are the HTML color codes.
Yeah.
And so like the way that they're trying to memorize, I'm like, oh, I feel your pain, man. You know how many variations of oranges we have for Geek Freaks? I know that shit. Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to think like FBE0046 or something is one that I use all the time. I just use it. But man, yeah.
I want to give a shout out to the clown is actually Josh Rubin, who, he's on a lot of the shows as well. He's also a director, and he just directed a new movie called Hard Eyes that came out last month in theaters.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. So
okay.
Check that out, guys. Solid movie. Also, sadly, unfortunately, some bad news with him. His house got lost in the fires. So what a trooper. When that movie came out, it was like when the fires were happening. So house burning down, and I need to advertise my movie that just came out, Hard Eyes. So, I mean, just what a stand-up guy.
And he was doing it. He was just like
doing
at
both
the junkets and...
Yeah. And Dropout, by the way, what we heard from Siobhan, because I follow a lot of these people on Instagram, or on TikTok. Siobhan was saying that, like, she works as a writer for a lot of different things. She writes on, I can't even remember what the other one was, something real big. But... she's like, only Dropout has been reaching out, making sure that we have all the supplies we need and that we have everything we need to survive the fires and all the stuff like that, and therapists and stuff. And it's like, that is a stand-up company, man. It's so freaking cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so much easier to be free doing whatever you want to do when you feel supported. I think at any job, right?
Absolutely.
Like, at the office where you work or whatever, at the store, if you feel like you have to watch your back from everybody, like you're not going to enjoy yourself. You're not going to be your most creative self or your most free self. And the space definitely feels like you're allowed to do it. But what we were talking about earlier, it's not just for the improvisers and the hosts. Like the whole crew gets in there and they're doing let's do the weenus dance.
Oh my God, that was trending on TikTok like crazy when this episode released. Holy cow.
I didn't catch that, but I'm like, just they have to have choreography now for this, right? And the fact that the whole crew knows it too, and they get to come on and do it, I was just like, this is fun. And it also kind of made me mad. Because I was like, why didn't I try to do this as a job earlier in my life?
You're telling me, bro. I think that all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, there's people making a living improvising, and I wanted to go work at some corporate company or, study super hard. And why? I could have just been goofing around with my friends, just trying to make people laugh.
I would love to be, looking back now, I would love to be a comedy writer for a show like this, for a sitcom or whatever. Like the structure behind jokes, I think that would be a blast to do. Hard work, of course, but to be a part of that community, oh my God, envious.
No. Yeah, it looks like a ton of fun. Just all around. You got to be like stoked for all the people involved with this show, and that's kind of what I'm taking away the most. I think from watching this is it's creative ideas, it's big swings. Everybody's going for it, and you just commit. Yeah, there's no looking down once you jump off this cliff. You're just jumping out, and I dig the hell out of it. I love people who just go for whatever they're dreaming, and it just seems like a company full of that.
Yeah, I'm so glad I was able to introduce. So I did a poll on our threads to see, hey, I want to introduce Thomas. This is about 3 months ago at the time. Hey, I want to introduce.
Catch it.
Yeah, I'm happy you didn't. Hey, I'm going to introduce Thomas to Dropout. Which of these shows should we start with? And Game Changer won.
Okay.
But every
job,
6 months or so, I'll do a different show too, because I just want to introduce you to this entire production company. I mean, there's a full streaming app. Like you watch it through the YouTube channel because that's how I subscribe to it. And I love how they are like, share your password, guys. Make sure everybody gets your password. It's like such a unique stance for a company. But yeah, that's really cool.
It is, yeah, and this is a true art form, like everything else. Without a doubt, now I know the amount of investment that goes into this. That stage, the amount of crew that's in there, the cameras they're using, the lighting. Like, this is a production. It makes so much sense to me. It's also really kind of bringing it back full circle and people could be like, who cares about the Emmys? But I think it's nice that this show was recognized in that category.
Right.
Or for the Emmys. Because unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, right now, that's the peak of a TV show, whatever quote unquote a TV show is nowadays. But I think this is. And it's nice to see them recognized at the highest level because I think for sure they deserve it.
It reminds me a lot of how you and me are doing podcasting. And sometimes when people hear about...
We do need to get recognized, Frank.
No, but there's a thing where people don't understand, like, hey, how's your podcasting doing? They're always like, have you had anybody famous on? I'm like, well, yeah, I've had, I like to throw out Melissa Flores' name a lot. I love Melissa Flores. Or Graham,
awesome.
All these different people that I really like that have been on the show before. Jordan Moore, stuff like that. But I'm like... But they might not be Brad Pitt to you, but I know that they're really big to me, and I know they're really big to their community and to my community. And it's like you almost need something to say, like, yeah, I went to San Diego Comic-Con, because that's a word you've heard before. And it's like what I was trying to tell you, like, oh, these guys are really big. They've been to Madison Square Garden. But it's because it's like a thing you say to show, like, this is the echelon that the mainstream will recognize as success. But we know, as podcasters, success comes in many forms, and we should celebrate it, but only you and I or other podcasters would recognize those successes. And so it's kind of nice that, like, while this thing got the Emmy recognition, also the community behind it is so driven, and I just love the fandom behind Dropout. It is, and I'm a Star Trek fan, I would say that Dropout fandom is the most pure joy fandom. I have never, ever heard a hater in any Dropout comment, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they're all paid subscribers, so that's probably why.
Yeah, but that means they're getting what they paid for. And how often do we get that these days?
That's a good point.
Yeah, I love the community. I love that people are making a living off of this amazing skill that a lot of that isn't recognized all the time, and that isn't rewarded with financial benefit. So it just, this is really cool. I think this is a great challenge. I appreciate it, man. I didn't, like I said, I was always skirting on the periphery of this thing, and it's like, all right, let's dive in now. No excuse. So these are great, and it gave a full breadth of game changers. Now it's time to dive into all the other different shows that they have.
Well, that's what I want to lead to. If you guys are a Dropout fan, I want to hear from you guys. What show should Thomas watch next? We'll do it in about 6 months. Which one of the shows? I'm thinking Make Some Noise myself, but there's Thousandaires. There's, of course, Vic Michaelis' Very Important People. Many, many, many shows. So let me know, guys, and we'll get Thomas challenged on that one. But I need a challenge from you this week.
Yeah. So don't know how I came to this conclusion. Oh, I know. Paddington. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say is Paddington. But I love this movie. We're getting a lot of Pedro Pascal recently with Fantastic Four and The Last of Us. He's a big part of this movie. But there's a wild card in there with Mr. Nicolas Cage. And I know you haven't watched this, so I desperately want you to. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
The memes this movie has produced. I've always needed to watch it. It's always been on the peripherals, like everything else through memes. Like I just love it. I am excited to watch this. And then so they're talking about Paddington. I know that I've seen clips of them talking about Paddington in there, which I haven't seen Paddington either. So that's looking forward to adding that to the list.
We can't get into Paddington without watching The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So of course, this is the gateway.
I'm excited for this, man. That's good. Oh, that's gonna be good. Like Friday night watch. That's perfect.
Yeah,
hell yeah.
It's a movie I actually own, which, it's few and far between these days in all the streaming platforms. But I own this movie just because I love it so much.
It's funny you say that. I'm trying to, because I have a pretty sizable, probably about a little over 1,000 Blu-rays.
Wow.
Yeah, because I used to collect a lot when in my 20s, because that's just what I did. And I was like, it's everything streaming now. I was trying to start collecting again, and I just today got in my Dungeons & Dragons, what is it, Thieves, the movie.
Yeah. With Chris Pine.
Because we were talking about it a lot on Geek Freaks, and I was like, that's a good one to add to the collection. That's a solid movie and stuff. I just came into it. We got to collect more physical media. Maybe we'll have to do giveaways for it.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's happening, man. I'm definitely back on the physical media train now, just because things disappear all the time, and you're like, I'm paying $10, $12 for this a month, and I can't watch the one movie I knew they had last month. That I know is stupid.
So frustrating.
Right.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you guys check us out next week. We're going to be talking about this week. Actually, we have Invincible finale, we have Severance finale next week, and then we just talked about Daredevil. We're going to be doing Daredevil every week. My brain's cooked.
We're a little fried, just like Dropout. Yay, yay, yay.
drop us. There you go. Dropout. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We really appreciate it, guys. Feedback is great, but it just shows us that you care.
Yeah.
There we go.
Like
Sympathy. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah.
We're sad. Please, sir, feed us some more. We need reviews. No, but for real, like, yeah, absolutely. And then follow us on the socials because we are also just sharing our thoughts all the time. So yeah, everywhere Challenge Accepted Live, and come join us over there. It's a lot of fun.
Heck yeah, guys. Links in the description. All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Aloha.